Good evening. My name is Nadine Pierre, and welcome to Interlude. In her book, Daring Greatly, Brené Brown describes vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. It's that unstable feeling we get when we step out of our comfort zone or do something that forces us to loosen control. I've been looking at why vulnerability is so scary. It's that not knowing how we will be received when someone knows something not so common about us. There's so much at stake, right? Which means it's wrapped up tightly with courage. And it's really going to take courage to be vulnerable. She says, it's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. You can't get courage without rumbling with vulnerability. So as I looked at vulnerability, my job brought many opportunities to be vulnerable and courageous. Being a manager in healthcare brought all the aspects of vulnerability with the people I serve. Some would call them the people I manage or supervise, but I say serve. And I'm glad that was my view, because when all the publicity about George Floyd and the racial attacks were being broadcasted worldwide, it became apparent that it was no longer going to be tolerated and brushed aside. My vulnerability and courage were put on alert. I found myself being asked to speak to the staff in town halls and staff meetings. Considering that my audience would mostly be white, as is the leadership, and no one in leadership there really ever asked me how I was doing or how I had been affected by it all. I really wanted to say no. Well, maybe something a little stronger than no. And just as I'm doing now, it took some serious willingness to demonstrate vulnerability and courage. I agreed to share my perspective, and give some insights into what it's like for me to be in public, to go shopping at a store and being followed, the visceral response I get when I see the police, and just knowing that I'm always being watched for a variety of reasons. So I shared that. Then, of course, came the awkward silence. And finally, someone asked a question. The good thing, as Brené Brown says, is courage is contagious. So by the third time that I shared with the whole staff, other people started to share. And as different groups started to form at work, we recently had our first meeting with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in our area. It wasn't until I was sharing with a colleague that I realized how my willingness to be vulnerable created this space for others to demonstrate their vulnerability and share openly and courageously. And that first meeting, everyone in the group was willing to share their reason, their purpose for joining the group, and why it was so important to them to take that stand and to take it now. So I ask you, when and with whom have you been vulnerable recently? This pandemic and everything in the news is an opportunity to stretch in the areas of vulnerability and courage. With the current societal discrimination, racism, health inequities, and fear, and all the other isms that are so palpable right now, will you choose to get in the game? Be in the arena and on the field? Or will you choose to stand on the sidelines? My hope is that you choose vulnerability and courage. Let's take a couple of deep breaths and let's pray. All that I am, God is. I am, God is. Each time I look in the mirror, I see my face. I am, God is. When I look within, I see God. God is. I am. I look in the mirror, I see my reflection. I am. God is. I look in the mirror, I see God. God is. I am. All that God is, I am. When I choose to step into vulnerability, I choose to be courageous. When I create the space for myself, I create the space for all. I look at you and I see your face. God is. I am. I look at your face and I see my reflection. God is. I am. I see my reflection. I see God. God is. I am. I see God. I see you. I see me. I see God. And so it is.
Thank you, Nadine, for your courage and vulnerability this evening. Good evening and welcome to Interlude. My name is Reverend Nina Clark and I am the Associate Minister here at Unity in Lynnwood. And we are so glad that you're here with us this evening to share in a time of recentering and reconnection, inspiration, nourishment, as we prepare to finish our weeks out. You know, the difficulty and beauty of the spiritual path, regardless of what teaching you follow, is that no one can do it for you. To really reap the benefits of our chosen spiritual path, we have to prove the teachings to ourselves. This is something that both Unity co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, taught. Once they had learned of the truth teachings, as they called them when they first learned about them, they both set about proving them to themselves. Charles wrote, "If you absolutely know within yourself that the only knowledge that you get is through your own consciousness, is through your own development, and that you can't receive a single thing from another, you have started right. If you go right on from that point, you will reach the goal, and you will never reach it any other way." So yeah, there are a bounty of books to read, and yes, there are classes to take, and yes, there are Sunday talks and conferences and workshops, and we should do all of those things as part of our learning journey. But none of that in and of itself brings us to the embodiment of our teachings. Through workshops, classes, and services, we can come to an intellectual understanding, and we can even come to a pretty profound faith, but it is only through the effort of our own practice that we come to know the felt truth of our teachings. It is only through the effort of our own practice that we come to have a felt experience of God. It is only through the effort of our own practice that we come to have a felt experience of our oneness. And this practice is something we do over and over. As much as we might like it to be so, it is not a one and done. Every day we practice so that we can embody these teachings. Joel Goldsmith tells us that the experience of God is a felt experience. And we get to that felt experience by practicing, by beginning anew every time we sit, by returning again and again to the basics and pulling our threads from there, beginning every day again, afresh, with beginner's mind, as though we are approaching truth for the first time. We approach as empty cups, as hollow reeds, waiting to be filled, waiting to be poured through. We begin again so that we don't approach with prior assumptions, with the half attention of the "I already know this" mind. That mind is closed. A mind that says, "I know it already," while yawning with boredom. That mind says, "There is nothing new for me to learn here now." And so there isn't. So we begin afresh each day with an open mind, willing to know God, willing to know truth in a new and different way, in a new and deeper way. In the book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Zen mind is described as one of those enigmatic phrases used by Zen teachers to make you notice yourself, to go beyond the words and wonder what your own mind and being are. This is the purpose of all Zen teaching, to make you wonder and to answer that wondering with the deepest expression of your own nature. The practice of Zen mind is beginner's mind, the innocence of the first inquiry, what am I, is needed throughout Zen practice. The mind of the beginner is empty, free of the habits of the expert, ready to accept, to doubt, and open to all possibilities. It is the kind of mind that can see things the way that they are, which step by step and in a flash can realize the original nature of everything. Joel Goldsmith, Unity author and teacher, tells us that we can sit for years with the same simple question. And actually, I believe Joel is a New Thought teacher and author. He says we could sit for years with the same simple question, what is God? We can ponder the nature of God, thinking about God, beginning again and again with beginner's mind. And by approaching our practice this way, in every meditation, we will encounter something deeper, something we hadn't discovered before. Each day takes our practice subtly deeper if we approach it with sincerity. And even though we can't always track the process, each time we sit, we are transformed just a little bit more. Approaching our practice in this way, Joel tells us that one day we will have a felt experience of God, just like that step-by-step and in a flash spoken to in the Zen Mind quote. Joel says that thought will be quieted, the inner ear will open, and he says that something of a release will come to you. And with that release comes divine wisdom, divine guidance, and divine strength. And for this reason, that click or release was a God experience, the actual presence or activity of God in your consciousness. It may announce itself in some other way, but you will know it by your reaction. You are tingling. There is new life in you. There is an awareness that is more than your human selfhood, and you will know that it is the presence and the activity of God in you. This is what we can reap with a practice. One of the reasons I was attracted to New Thought teachings is that I feel that we as spiritual beings are here having a human experience for a reason. My personal belief is that we are here to grow into having this human experience from a consciousness of wholeness, from a consciousness of oneness. And our practice brings us to a knowing of our inherent wholeness and to a knowing of our oneness. And when we know that we know that we know this, our meaningful action in the world is driven by the engine of stillness within. It is guided by and imbued with the wisdom of God. And this allows us to impact the world around us with inspired action, rooted in our own wholeness and our certainty of our oneness. During these past couple of years of study, several ministers have said to me that we really say the same thing over and over again, just in different ways, using different stories. I've thought about this at length. Really, our teachings are pretty simple. They're not easy, but they're simple. There's only one infinite something that we call God. And because it is infinite, we must be of it. And if we are of it, then all that is true of it is true of us. And we teach that our thoughts have creative power and that prayer and meditation is the practice that powers our thought. Pretty simple, right? And I think that we need to hear about them over and over for a couple of reasons. One is it takes us a while to embody them. And the other reason is that we hear and experience so much in the sense world that speaks to us of separation. Our eyes see the other. We see trees and plants and buildings and cars and chairs and tables, all of which seem to be separate from us. The experiences that Nadine was describing earlier are all about separation. We need to hear it again and again and again, that there is only one and that we are not separate, in order for us to make headway against the barrage of input that tells us just the opposite. And so each day, we begin again with beginner's mind. Whenever we're lost, we begin again by coming back to the beginning and starting over, again and again and again. Our teachings tell us that there is one, it's something, an awareness, an infinite consciousness, an intelligence, and we are of it because of our inability to be separate from that which is infinite. Again and again, we close our eyes and we return to what matters. Beginning again, beginning anew, we return again and again to the basics and pull our threads once again from there. And so the work is always, always within. Tonight I'd like to share a meditation adapted from Joel Goldsmith's book, Living the Infinite Way. The first step in meditation is to make yourself physically comfortable. Sit erect with your spine straight, your feet planted firmly on the floor, your hands relaxed in your lap, and breathe normally. There is no mystical or occult reason for this. It is very simple. When the body is perfectly comfortable, one is not conscious of it. From there, take up the question, what is God? From your reading and study, you have some concept of what God is. But that concept might easily be that of someone else. In this meditation, you are not interested in another's concept of God. You are interested only in asking, what is God? And receiving the answer from God. The kingdom of God is within you, so the answer must come from within your own being. After you have asked the question, assume a listening attitude, as if you were waiting to hear the answer. While you wait, thoughts are bound to come, and you welcome them. These thoughts that come will be individual to you, but let's follow a thread together as an example. You ask, what is God? It could come to you that God is life, not merely because the Bible and metaphysical books say so, but because it is already clear in your own mind that without life in the world, there would be nothing. So if God manifested in any way at all, it must be as life. Your thoughts lead you to realize that the trees are living, the flowers are living, the fish and the birds are living. We have just said that God is life. Then those things which we call trees, the song of the bird, the fragrance of the flower, are all God. God expressing itself as life. Expanding the meditation further, you see that a seed, until it is planted in the ground, cannot sprout. It remains a seed. Forever and ever, it remains a seed until life, acting upon it, arouses the life within it. And there again, you see life, and that is God. God, permeating the elements of the earth and acting upon the seed, brings forth fruit after its kind. And now your thoughts wander out to the universe. The light and warmth of the sun, the brilliance of the stars, the waxing and waning of the moon, the planets shining in perfect harmony, held in a perfect balance. You notice the formation of clouds, the movement of the ocean, and all this perfect harmony. And you realize they are living, living, living. God is life. All is God revealing itself. God announcing itself. And as you look at the infinity of the forms of flowers, fruit, trees, foliage, and the infinity of life in the universe, suddenly you realize the nature of prayer. And you think, wait a minute, all these things exist without anyone praying for them. These things exist as the activity of God itself, without any human intervention, petition, or affirmation. And I have been praying for these things, for supply, for beauty, for harmony. And here they are. They are God itself, not something separate and apart from God. They are life itself, and they are already here. And from these thoughts, you come to understand that prayer is the recognition that life already is, and that God is that life, regardless of the form as which it appears, and that it does not have to be prayed for, either in the old sense of petition or in the new sense of affirmation. You begin to see that prayer is this silent meditating, pondering, and recognizing of God as the source of all that is. Recognizing God to be the very life heard in the bird's song, the very life in the flower's fragrance. You begin to understand omnipresence, and to understand that prayer is the recognition of the omnipresence of God as the life in every form. You will have a feeling, an inner knowing. This is the very Christ that I am experiencing. This is the presence and the Spirit of God. Through me, it does all things. It goes before me to make the crooked places straight. It goes ahead to prepare a place for me. It is the cement in human relationships, the love binding us together, the understanding between me and all those whom I meet. It is the guidance, the wisdom, and the strength for the task I must perform. It is the healing power. Many spiritual students believe that if they can just change a sick body into a well body, unemployment into employment, a bad person into a good person, that is spiritual demonstration. Please believe me, these are not demonstrations. These are the effects of demonstrations. The demonstration is that awareness of God's presence, the deep breath, the click, or the sense of release. That is the demonstration. When you achieve that, health, employment, supply, home, companionship, whatever is necessary, automatically follow, because these are the added things. In the message of the infinite way, you will find that we cannot demonstrate person, place, thing, or condition. We can demonstrate only the presence of God, the activity of God in us, the realization of God. When we have achieved that demonstration, all these things are added unto us. And so it is.
Thank you, Nina. That was lovely. And thank you for sharing this time with us. Now we have an opportunity for you to give. So if you would like to donate this evening, some information will appear for you on the slide. You may choose to mail a check or go to the website and click the donate button, or you can choose text to give. Thank you so much for your generosity. As we bring this service to a close, we are reminded, I am reminded, to release what does not serve. I am reminded that I am and have all that I seek. And reminded also for you to call on the you that you seek. For we know it takes courage to be and to be seen and to show up. So at this time, I'd like you to repeat these words of affirmation. Repeat after me. Here's who I choose to be. I choose to look in the mirror and see my truth. I know my truth and my power. I look at the blank pages of tomorrow. It takes courage to be me authentically. I am all that I seek. I rise up, put pen to paper, and create my life. I live. I love. I laugh. I serve. Every act of love towards myself and others inspires more love. We stand up in support of one another. All sisters and brothers in love. My life matters. My voice matters. I matter. Living courageously. Being authentically audacious. daring to be me. This is who I choose to be. For me and for the world. And so it is. Let's do this.
I release and I let